it's like bittersweet. You feel me? Like a season almost over, but
Yeah.
it's almost the best time of the year as far as the football season goes, where somebody is about to get crowned soon. So it was some great first round games. A lot of controversy going on around the state playoffs, but we're gonna get into that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a great first round. The team pretty much. I don't think it was any like upsets or anything that was shocking like that happened. Pretty much, I don't think so. I think everybody who was
Almost
supposed to win
upsets.
one. Yeah, almost close
Yeah.
games, but yeah, nothing too crazy in the first round. Everything kind of happened how we expected, but we definitely got some decent matchups second round. But the quarterfinals is where everything gets interesting. So
Oh, you already looking past second round, bro. You talking
not
about the
looking
quarterfinals.
past it, but just kind of projecting on what the possibilities that could happen, like some rematches, some mega matchups. So quarterfinals on is gonna be interesting for real.
I know which matchup you thinking about, but I'm not gonna jump too far ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we was discussing round one last week, right? And we made the videos and stuff. And after this weekend, like it hit me, and it always hits me every year. But some kids not gonna be able to play football again after this, or will not. They played their last football game, and I seen a post from like a kid. What's his name? From Joliet Catholic, number 3, Jaden Armstrong. He had collabed with us on the post, and it was like pretty much just a heartfelt message about his time at Joliet Catholic is done. And I'm like, damn, I forgot that when it gets to this part of the year, some seniors on the team played their last down of high school football. You know what I mean? I even seen something from Mount Zion, a kid from Mount Zion, Jacob Harvey, made a post saying, man, football was good to me. I had pictures when he was a kid. I'm like, dang, bro. That's the part of the game that kind of gets to me, because I remember we was once in that position before too, where we played our last down of football, and it doesn't really hit you until it happens. Like you're going into practice every week expecting to win or hoping to win, not thinking that the season's going to end this weekend, and that's another part of the game is like, damn, it's like kids played their last down of football. It makes me think about when I played my last down of football. But we move on to second round, and the teams that survive, that's why we call it win or go home. The teams that have survived move on to the second round. There are some good second round matchups that we're going to get into, and then maybe some potential quarterfinal matchups that we could predict. But the first game I want to actually talk about is a controversial one that you may have mentioned. It was a matchup between Porta and Fairfield that took place. I won't go into too much detail as far as like opinions from my perspective, for obvious reasons, but I would at least mention what happened in the game. It seemed like, was it the team Porta had 5 downs in the last few plays of the game to eventually end up kicking a field goal to win the game. Was it 9-8? And it was controversy that if they were actually given an extra down, or did one down not count? Do you have any thoughts on that, FA? Because, like I said, I'm not going to give too much of my opinion for obvious reasons, but I kind of want to hear what's your take on, essentially, Fairfield losing a game that they could have potentially or should have won. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll start with this. What I always say is that if it comes down to something like that, then you probably, is no room to argue. Like when the games are close and you put it in the ref's hands, or one call, one decision determines the game, then I mean, it is what it is. You have to deal with that. If you don't want the refs to alter the game or make a decision that affects the outcome, then don't allow them to win big. So I'll just start with saying that. But I watched the video a couple times. It started going kind of viral, so I was seeing people doing breakdowns, and I don't think there's a conversation to be had about how many plays were running. If there was a fifth play, there was definitely a fifth play, no doubt about it. Watching it over and over again. So from the first thing I thought about was the coaches, right? So the coaches should have, I don't know, because I wasn't watching the game live, right? All I could see is the breakdowns from everybody. So from the looks of it, it was a timeout called when they kneeled it for I believe it was the fifth play, or was it the fourth play where they kneeled it? On fourth down, they kneeled it, and it was supposed to be a turnover on down, and they called the timeout.
Turnover or down. So it was.
It was
I don't
supposed to
remember
be.
which player it was, but I do remember it was a play. Actually, no. So I think it was the third down where they kneeled it, right? Instead of spiking it, so they kneeled it, and the clock should have kept running. Is what I was seeing in the video, and then they spiked it on the fourth down, which would have been a turnover on downs.
Exactly.
And then after the spike,
there was a timeout.
Lined up the field goal,
but there was a timeout.
Was it an official's timeout though?
I'm not sure because I wasn't watching the game. I couldn't hear anything. It was just people's breaks down. So I just know that there was a pause, and both teams went off to their sidelines, right?
And then they came out with the field goal unit. They kicked the field goal.
Yeah. So I would like to know if the coaches recognized that it was a fifth down. Like if they recognized it was supposed to be a turnover on down, because it didn't seem that way. It didn't seem like the coaches were talking to the refs or there was a delay in the game to try to understand what was going on. I know I heard the audio from up top where they were saying like, hey, this is supposed to be a turnover. They're getting a fifth play. But I'm not sure if the coaching staff recognized it. And if they did, I just think it should have maybe been a better effort to kind of have a conversation with the ref and kind of hold off on sending the team out to let the play happen if you absolutely knew that there was a fifth down and it was supposed to be a turnover. Because I mean, essentially the game is on the line. It's the playoffs, win or go home. I don't think it's something that you kind of just deal with and take. Like if anything, you hold off and try to have a conversation with the ref. Defensive coordinator obviously is monitoring the downs. Somebody has to recognize that, right? That's just kind of my thinking, is that somebody should have recognized that it was an extra down. But I don't think they did. So again, like one thing that everybody has to take into consideration is human error. So, I mean, if it did happen, it's a mistake. Mistakes happen. Everybody makes mistakes, right? I mean, we can't make it seem like the referees are perfect. Sometimes things happen, right? But again, if you don't want one call or one mistake to affect the outcome of a game, then it shouldn't be close. Don't let it be that close. But I just really think it's something that the coaches should identify. But I'm not saying that they didn't identify it, but just based on the breakdowns of the footage that I've seen, it didn't appear that way. Maybe they did, you know, I didn't watch the live stream. So maybe they did. And it was like the ref just said, no, this is what it is. And they had to go out there and the play had to go on. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, but human error is something to take into consideration. I mean, what can you do about it? There's nothing you can do. It happens. Missed calls happen a lot in sport. And well, I mean, what are you going to do? You going to cry about it? I mean, it just is what it is. I'm sorry. It's very unfortunate for the athletes who are now, you know, their season ended. But I mean, what options do you have in this scenario?
Well, they don't have an option to overturn the play call. I'm going to read out a bylaw that's in place. It's bylaw 6.033. It states that the decision of game officials shall be final. Protests against the decision of a game official should not be reviewed by the board of directors. So that is a bylaw that's in place that's saying that whatever is decided on the field by the officials is the final decision. And I don't know. I know sometimes in these situations, people think that like the IHSA can go in and kind of just overturn a ruling or overturn the game. And in reality, their job, at least our job, well, I'm not a decision maker at the IHSA, right? I'm only the director of social media. But essentially the assistant executive director's job and the executive director's job in Craig Anderson is to enforce the bylaws that are in place by the association. A lot of times people think that the IHSA, like as in the executive directors, make up the rules, when in reality, they only enforce them. The rules that are in place are actually rules that are voted on by the association. And what I mean by the association is the participating member schools of the association are the ones that vote on the bylaws. So whether it's the legislative commission that the bylaws get passed to and it goes through its own little process or whatever, but essentially the bylaws that are proposed by participating member schools. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. I don't like, so even when I'm reading bylaw 6.033. I don't know when exactly that bylaw went into place. That could have been a long time ago that bylaw went into place, right? But it is in place. And that's a bylaw. I'm sure it was decided by participating member schools. So it's unfortunate that now, if you want to argue if the bylaw is not fair, I think that's a completely different conversation. You know, like I said, I'm not gonna give my opinion on the situation. I do think that it was it was clearly, when I saw that happen, and like when I saw it like on social media, I knew for a fact like it was gonna go viral. I knew for a fact that it was gonna be talked about. And that happened Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
I knew what was coming with it. Like that was
Yeah.
a clear that's something that you just can't go like that's something that just can't get swept under the rug, right? Like it's clearly gonna be talked about. But as I mentioned, the bylaw that's in place is bylaw 6.033. What the official decides on the field as the outcome is the outcome of the game. But like I said, if we're arguing that the bylaw is unfair, then there is processes and ways to get a bylaw changed. It's just unfortunate that the game played out the way it played out, and that bylaw is enforced in that situation.
Yeah. And I think it's just one of those situations where it even gets tricky when you try to challenge that, or if you try to alter that bylaw, because now we don't have instant replay in high school. And so now is every play going to be considered like, oh, was it a touchdown? Was it a fumble? Was it this?
Right.
Like it's going to make everything 10 times more difficult. Like, and every team doesn't have the resources to have the instant replay or whatever you would utilize to be able to determine plays and calls in real time, you know?
And another thing is that from a high school's version of an instant replay, right? You mentioned like resources, and everybody doesn't have the same technology or camera resources, right?
Yeah.
And you can't really tell from an all 22 live stream, at least from a like audio, what talking standpoint of like what's happening on the field. You can't really tell what the conversation is. All you can really tell is what you see as far as like what's happening from the all 22. But it's not like you can, take many different angles like the NFL or college football and say, oh, this is when they were doing this and this is when they was doing that or whatever. So that part, but then at the end of the day, it's no instant replay in high school, like you said.
Right. Yeah.
There's no instant replay. There's no instant replay.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, and that call is completely unacceptable. By no means am I justifying like it was a really big mistake that potentially cost the team, an advancement in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, as I said earlier, you have to take into account human error. Like it happens. So it's bad that it happened this way, but it happens, and it's just like you got to move on from it because it can be reversed. And what can you do about it? I mean, people are upset, which they have the right to be, but at the end of the day, the call is the call and is going to stand. And I mean, maybe there's something else that they can do to make sure, better quality refs, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to the refs, but I did see someone comment like there's a shortage of refs in Illinois. So, I mean, I'm sure that has something to do with maybe the quality or the standard that you have. I mean, because this is not like an ongoing issue. Like this isn't like every week there's a missed call or something controversial. Like this is probably
that
for
we
me,
see, at least.
Yeah, that we see.
That's public. That's as public and viral as this one specifically.
Well, I would just say to this magnitude of where, because I told you, like for me, coaching and watching the game, I've never seen a down like being a mistaken down where you get an extra down. I've never seen that before. I've never seen anybody lose track of downs, whether it be coaches or referees. But I think it's too many eyes on the field for that mistake to happen. And that's why I'm kind of like, okay, the refs made a mistake, but for sure the coaches would have identified that, right? Like there's no doubt about that in my mind. But, things happen, heat of the game, it's a lot of pressure. It's a high pressure moment. I don't know. I'm just speaking from my perspective. I could be completely wrong. Like the coaches could have identified it. They could have argued it. I saw clips broken up. I didn't watch the live stream straight through. So they very well could have argued it, debated it, on the field, and they just couldn't come to the conclusion that it was a turnover on down. And they just played it out. Who knows? But from what it looks like, from the videos that we're all seeing, it's clear as day. There's no disputing that if it was a fifth down or not. No disputing it. But, I mean, hey, isn't the first missed call, and it won't be the last,
I think an important part that you mentioned is human error. Unfortunately, human error, human error.
Human error, bro.
Obviously, clearly, like, I don't gotta state why I'm being careful of the words that I use to say, but I will reiterate that the bylaw that is in place doesn't allow for that to be overturned, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I do want to reiterate that there is a process that can essentially propose a new bylaw change to that bylaw. If schools, participating school members feel that it should be changed.
Yeah.
There is a way to get that changed.
Now, wait, real quick before we move on, I don't know if you want to touch on this, but I actually saw that there's a proposal for if a player gets ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct or something, they want to review it. And I'm like, what? So how can we kind of...
I'm glad you brought that up. All right. So what you're talking about is one of the 23 proposals that's been one of the 23 new bylaw proposals that's been proposed to the Legislative Commission is what you're referring to, right? I don't know which proposal number that was specifically, but yes, I do remember there is a proposal around some language about if a kid gets ejected, you can use replay footage to kind of decide the magnitude of that ejection. If a kid doesn't need to sit out the next game based on that ejection, or I can't remember exactly what it was. Let's pull it up real quick so I'm not misquoting it. Let me pull up the bylaws. And if people don't know, the first Legislative Commission to hear the new 23 proposed bylaws take place today at the IHSA headquarters. But the one that FA is talking about is one of the bylaws that has been proposed. So let me pull that up real quick.
Yeah, and while you pulling that up, I think it's just super important for just like what me and you are doing, like going through the bylaws. Like, I think it's very important because I even admitted to you, like when I was coaching, I wasn't necessarily, I didn't have any understanding of the bylaws. It wasn't something that I thought about. I just focused on the game. But I think for people out there who really want to kind of create some type of change or spark some change or get, some results, there's certain systems and processes that you have to go through. And these bylaws is what you should be focused on, like this shapes IHSA sports is these bylaws. So if there's something that you don't like, you need to go look at the bylaws and understand what bylaws are in place and how we can alter them so that, we have a better quality, game and sport and athletics in Illinois, so.
Yeah. And I think one thing, because I admit it, I was guilty of this, right? But at the same time, I'm not a coach or an AD. Prior to starting my job at the IHSA, I wasn't a coach or an AD or whatever. I was we talked about high school sports, specifically the IHSA. But I'll be honest, I wasn't too versed on these bylaws or even understood how the process worked until I got to the IHSA and I really studied it. Like, I didn't realize, I would say certain things transpired recently over the months with certain decisions made by the board of directors that definitely sparked my interest into understanding the legislative process behind getting the bylaw proposed, and the process it has to go through in order for it to actually be put into the IHSA handbook, right, as a rule. And I learned over the course of the last month and a half, I would even say damn near 2 months, I learned so much about the process and learned so much about how a lot of people don't even realize the process itself. And I'm talking about like coaches and like ADs and like principals, the people that should be knowing it. I'm learning that a lot of them don't really know it as well. And it goes back to your point. I think it's important that if for like the example that we're talking about right now, bylaw 6.033, say that if the school Porta, and maybe they get like a coalition of other schools that want to get that bylaw changed, I would encourage them to read the bylaw that's in place as far as like uh the final score is the final score and it can't be overturned. The final score that the officials put is the final score and it can't be overturned. Understand that bylaw, what does it mean, and then you can really assess of what needs to change to that bylaw. Because as I mentioned, I mean, 23 proposals for this year's, like bylaw proposals at the Legislative Commission. I'm pretty sure all of those are not going to get passed
Right.
because that's just the way a voting process is. But I'm pretty sure a few of them will. You know what I mean? And whether one gets passed or not, I'm pretty sure it's all about how it was outlined and the details that was in it and what it affects. And the Legislative Commission, who I will mention, is also representatives of participating schools of the IHSA. It's 35 of Legislative Commission members. They talk about it, they vote on it, and then they, decide. They have town hall meetings, and then they have a second Legislative Commission meeting when they actually vote on it, and then it goes to the all school ballot, and then all of the schools are able to vote on it. So it's a process to get things through. I just don't even think most schools know the process.
Yeah,
No,
most people.
I wouldn't say. Let me take that
No,
away.
yeah,
I wouldn't say most schools. I would say a lot of schools that are
yeah,
in certain situations don't understand what that process is. And then here's the even crazier part about the process, right? Say you propose a bylaw and that bylaw doesn't make it to the all school ballot. For one, you can revamp that bylaw and try to bring it back again the following year, okay? Or what you could do is if you get, I think it was 20% of participating member schools to petition that this bylaw should go to the ballot, that's another way to get a proposed bylaw to the ballot. And I'm not even sure if a lot of schools know that.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you given the game. I'm glad
Well,
you put it
here's
out
the
there.
thing. Like, so I would like to give the game in a better way because we're talking about a school, Porta, who Fairfield that lost the game. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Fairfield that lost the game. Fairfield's the one that lost the game. Porter's the one that won the game. Okay. But we're talking about it in relation to that. And I think the main issue is, for one, the officials, it's speculated the officials may have cost them the game.
yeah,
But
because
on the other end, I think the real outcry is that it's not being overturned because of the bylaw that's in place. And I think it goes back to the point when I'm seeing like comments like, the IHSA should overturn this. IHSA needs to do the right thing. If you ask IHSA members what is the right thing to do, the right thing in their eyes to do is to enforce bylaw 6.033 that's in place because that's their job. Like their job is, they don't, like I said before, the IHSA does not make up the rules. They just enforce them.
yeah,
The people that makes up the bylaws are the participating schools that's a part of the IHSA. So getting into these 23 proposals, if you're asking who proposed these, you can clearly see it. And by the way, it's on the IHSA website. It's literally like on the front page. You can't miss it as far as like the 23 proposals and the town halls that'll be happening in the Legislative Commission that just took place today. So you can see all the 23 proposed bylaws. Like that's public information. I would encourage people to take some time and look at every single bylaw that's being proposed. And the reason why I would say that is because if you're a participating IHSA member school and you coach a football team or a basketball team or whatever the case may be, some of these bylaws could affect your sport. And you will want to either vote against it or vote for it if you think that it's going to help the IHSA become better. But what am I trying to say? Being an active participant in your association, especially at this time of the year where new bylaws are being proposed, is the most crucial time to be involved with the IHSA, especially with understanding these new bylaw proposals. Because if you want better for the IHSA sports, this is the process of how you make it better. And that's another thing I don't know if a lot of schools know. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure there's a lot of schools that do know, but there's over 800 participating IHSA school members, man. I can guarantee you there's a lot of those out of that 800. I guarantee you a lot of those are lacking a lot of the knowledge as far as like the legislative process of the legislative commission and how bylaws get passed. I guarantee you a lot of people lack that knowledge. Excuse me. But I would encourage every AD, coach, principal, student, whoever, if you play sports at the IHSA, you coach sports, or you're just a part of the IHSA as a whole, even the parents, it's for the parents that can even read it too. I would encourage everybody to read the new 23 proposals that could potentially go on the ballot this year for changes to the bylaws, the IHSA bylaws. Like I said, there's 23 new proposals. I'm pretty sure all of them aren't going to get passed, especially since when you read them, you'll see that some of them that's on the ballot contradict each other, so it wouldn't even make sense for multiple of them to get passed. You know what I mean? Like in situations like that. But there's some interesting things that's on the ballot. One of the things that's on the ballot is a playoff expansion. A playoff expansion, as in the season will start a week early, football season. So it'll be week 0, that would be overtaken. And then you will add week 9 would be the first week of the playoffs, and then some of the teams will have a bye. That's a bylaw proposal. I'm not stating it in detail, grave detail, because I don't have all the time to read it and all, but that's a bylaw that's being proposed. Or the one that proposed, the one that you mentioned, FA, was around replays for when kids get ejected and it being reviewed after the game to decide the severity of the ejection. That's another bylaw. It's many other bylaws. Cooperative, like the first few bylaws proposals are like co-ops, around co-ops. There's another bylaw that's being proposed around playing state series or regionals on a federal holiday. You know, there's so many bylaws that's being proposed, and this happens every year. This happens around this time every year. Every single year. There's some bylaws on here that people came back again this year to try to get it passed or get it through the legislative commission. So, like I said, I would encourage people to read all 23 bylaws, especially the ones that, if you play like football, there's a lot of football bylaws in here. If you're a co-op team, there's a lot of co-op bylaw proposals in here. Telling you, man, it goes back to, if you want to make change and things more equitable in Illinois high school sports, first thing you have to do is read the bylaw, or not even all the bylaws, right? You may not have the time to go through all the bylaws or whatever, but maybe there's a specific bylaw that you may have violated, or maybe there's a specific bylaw that's stopping you from being able to do something. Read that bylaw. Understand that bylaw. Even if you can't understand it yourself, I would encourage you to go to other member schools that you may have relationships with and say, hey, what's your understanding of this bylaw? Or maybe you can send an email to the assistant executive director of that specific sport to make you get clarification of a specific bylaw. So that way you really understand what that bylaw is. And then from there, you can assess of, all right, I understand that this is the bylaw that's in place. This is what it does to this specific sport or sports in its entirety. I think it would be better to do X, Y, and Z to make a change to this bylaw. Or you could propose a completely brand new bylaw that should be in place. But you can't, I would say you don't do that until you understand what that thing is that you're trying to change and how does it affect not just your situation, but every participating member schools. Like I said, it's over 800 participating member schools. All right. And then how does it affect the IHSA as a whole? Like, how does what you're proposing change what's already in place and makes things better for the association as a whole? I think a lot of times, in a lot of bylaws I'm reading, some of it just seems like, oh, this happened to my school. I think it should be changed, not realizing the effect it can have on the association as a whole. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the effect that it can have on the association as a whole can be a lot worse than it just fixing this problem for one specific school or multiple schools. So my bad. I know I went on a little rant about a lot of this, but man, like it's and I guarantee you, I would even encourage people to just look at the bylaws in its entirety, because I guarantee you there are a ton of bylaws that don't even come up anymore, because whether it's super outdated, that these things or systems are not in place that of way people like play sports, that could probably be changed. You know what I mean? Like, it's probably a bylaw that was probably written at the beginning of the association started, right? And probably is super obsolete to this day. But I encourage people to read it to understand, all right, this bylaw is super old. We need to change to this. There's the only way to make change is to understand that change that you want to make, bro. And the only way to understand that change that you want to make is to read the bylaws. It's the only way. Because like I said, there is a way to get a lot of the bylaws changed. But you have to follow the process of getting it changed. And there is a process, and the process is very interesting. And I think a lot of people, if they understood it, and I don't want to keep saying that like people don't understand what the process is, because that's not what I'm trying to say. But I do know that there's people out there that don't understand the process. For a fact. For a fact, I know that there's people out there that don't understand the process. I've had conversations with people, and I just let them speak, and I can just clearly hear them like they don't know how this works. Like, they clearly don't know how this works, because they're saying that, oh, the IHSA should, do this and do that, and they need to make better rules. And it's like, they don't make the rules, they just enforce them. They don't make the rules, they just enforce them.
Yep,
So,
I agree.
23 new bylaws have been proposed. First legislative commission was today. Pretty much what will happen next is the town halls. So there's a schedule of the town hall meetings on the IHSA website. I encourage everybody to go to the IHSA website and look at the 2025-26 IHSA legislative process info end dates. It will tell you everything you need to know about the 23 bylaws that are being proposed. The first legislative commission meeting was held this Monday. The next town hall meetings will be held between November 6th to November 19th. You can see a list of the schedules of the schedule of the town hall meetings. Now, it does say the meetings are for IHSA school personnel only, so it's not open to the public. So sorry, parents and stuff, it's not open to them, but it is open to participating school personnel. So like, I'm pretty sure like coaches and ADs and principals and things like that. And then they will convene for a second legislative commission meeting on Monday, November 24th, where they will actually decide vote on which bylaws will actually go to the all school ballot. And then the all school ballot online voting will begin between December 1st through the 15th. And then from there, what's ever voted on will be a bylaw that's in place starting the next school year, unless it's mentioned in the bylaw itself that it will start within 30 days or whatever. But it's a process behind it. And this happens every year, like I said. Like, this is something that I wasn't aware about prior to starting the IHSA, but I've become super aware of it ever since I've been working at the IHSA. So I hate to be I wouldn't even say I hate to be the obviously there's boundaries I have to set with certain things I talk about, right? Because I am a IHSA employee. And I'm not a decision maker, so let's get that straight. I'm not a decision maker. I just manage I'm the director of social media, so I just manage the social media. So I am the decision maker on that fact, as far as what goes into the social media and things like that. But as far as like these bylaws and running meetings or whatever, I'm not an executive assistant director or anything. I am director of social media. That's all I do. But in being the director of social media, I think it's important for me to even understand the bylaws. And I'm still learning them. There's a lot of bylaws that's in place, and I'm still learning them. But I will say that I would not have the knowledge that I have on it right now without me trying to learn it and asking questions. So I encourage everybody to do the same thing, especially if you're a coach, AD, or principal. Even a player, even a parent, I would encourage y'all to read those bylaws. And then if you're participating, if you're an IHSA school personnel, I would encourage you to visit one of the town halls to understand which bylaws are being proposed. Because I think a lot of the proposals have videos behind them and everything, and I think they will present all 23 bylaws, and so people can discuss it and talk about it and see how they feel about it. And then whenever all of those bylaws get voted on by the Legislative Commission at the second meeting and they get to the ballots, whatever bylaws get to the ballot, I encourage y'all to be a part of that process and vote on it. Because it could either help your school or really mess up your school.
For sure.
So, did I say too much? Did I go on too long?
Nah, I think that was perfect because it needs to be put out there, and I don't I haven't seen anybody breaking it down this way, and I think if we're gonna get on here and say like a lot of people don't know, I think it's kind of our responsibility to teach or put the
Educate.
information out there. So yeah, we should be educating, but educate yourself. That's the biggest thing. Hey, we need to educate ourselves when dealing with this because there's a lot of people out there who have an opinion and have something to say and want to talk shit, but it's like you don't really understand the processes and systems in place. So it's like, how can you play the game if you don't know the rules? So essentially, like what you were saying with the outdated bylaws, it's like, okay, if you think that Illinois high school football is fucked up in Illinois, right? Why wouldn't you go figure out what exactly is fucked up? Instead of just getting online complaining saying, hey, I hate this. This is wrong. Fix this, fix that. When the power is really in our hands from, like you said, the coaches, ADs, and principals. I can't propose any bylaw. You can't
I can't
propose any
either.
bylaw, right?
Even a IHSA executive director can't propose a bylaw. The board of directors can on behalf, like the board of directors, because the board of directors consists of ADs, principals, and ADs and principals.
Yeah,
So it's like they're participating members. So technically, if their school got together and said, hey, we want to propose this new bylaw, they could, even if they are on the board, because they're a participating member of the school. But I'm not a participating member. I don't coach at a high school. Matt Troha, he doesn't coach at a high school. Tracy Henry, Craig Anderson, they cannot propose it. But only thing they can do is enforce what's in place.
Yep.
It's the only thing they can do. So remember, when you say IHSA needs to change these bylaws, remember you're talking to yourself. If you are a participating member, I'm not talking about the parents because the parents can't come in and propose a new bylaw. They can't. But it's like, it's a process, and it's a process.
It is.
It's the IHSA has been around for 125 years, right? Clearly, like we know what was going on 125 years ago. So clearly, there's probably still systematic things that's in place that could, affect certain schools. So why wouldn't you want to educate yourself on those things to possibly spark a change?
Yep. And that's because this is the only way that change will happen. It's not going to happen from you being upset, making posts. You could do all the stuff you want, but it won't matter.
What's going to happen? The following year is going to happen, and people are going to forget about what you was upset about.
Yep.
Because no real action was behind it.
Exactly.
This is how you make real action to bylaw changes, is to get together with, even if it's a coach that said, hey, this should be changed, get with your AD and your principal, understand that bylaw that you want to change. Once you understand that bylaw you want to change, I would say iron out some details of what changes should go to what specific bylaw. And then I wouldn't say submit it directly to the IHSA. I would say get with other schools to see if they're on the same page as you. And maybe they may have input into it to say, you're not thinking about this. You may want to add some language here because you're kind of doing this or whatever when you say this. And then y'all could be in agreement, be like, yeah, you're right. Let me go to another school and see, a school that I have a relationship with and see what they think about what I'm trying to propose.
Yep.
Right? And that way you get a coalition of people that understand, like, all right, this change needs to happen, but I think it happens best this way, other than it's just your school writing it up. And then it's like, I'm only writing this because it's kind of affecting my school. But there's a way to do it properly. And I think this is a process that has to be taken seriously, bro. Like, it really has to be taken seriously because these are what decides the factors of how equitable IHSA sports are.
Yep.
It's the truth.
Yep.
And it's a process, bro, and it's real work behind it. It's not easy. It's not easy to pull up data points or to even, take the time out of a lot of your busy schedule when you're teaching and then coaching and, have family at home. It's a process. I'm not going to say it's easy as 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to say it's snapping your fingers going to happen like that. That's not the truth. That's not the case. Obviously, when voting is involved, sometimes it's hard to convince a group of people,
Yeah. And that's
But
true.
one thing I want to say, it is possible, and there's workarounds too if it doesn't get voted on, So please pay attention to that legislative process because, man, a lot of these, everybody needs to read these 23 proposals. Like, I don't want to go into grave detail every single one of them because I think we want to get into the football games now, and we already spent 40 minutes talking about a lot of this, but there are a lot of proposals that change a lot of things drastically.
Yeah. And
a lot of it outlines football.
Yeah, and I would even say not
a lot
even
of it
just
outlines football.
Yeah.
So read it.
Yeah.
Read it, please. I beg of you, please.
Yeah, read everything.
Read it.
Read
everything. It all, though.
Read the rules, the simple rules of everything. How the playoff seeding works, how home games are determined, like all of these questions that we're seeing online and on Instagram and our social medias. It's like, bro, the answers are out there. Like, stop complaining.
It's all on the IHSA website.
It's all there. Like, go read.
The handbook with the bylaws are written. It's all on the IHSA website. All of this is public knowledge.
Yeah. Like, nobody's hiding the information from you. Like, all the questions that you need answers to is right there. You just have to go read it. So yeah, I want to continue to keep everybody informed and up to date on the legislative process and everything that's going on with the proposals, because I think it's important. Like, all right, we'll take away the hard work for you. How about that? How about we do some of the work for you and we'll go read the stuff.
You gonna put that on us?
Yeah, hey, why not? Why not, bro? Like, I mean, so there's no excuses now. Like, you got a platform you could come to, and I'm not saying we gonna cover every single bylaw, but things that we may find interesting or things that we want to present, like, hey, what y'all think about this? We can do that. And maybe
let's do that right now, actually, because we're in playoff. I want to bring up one specific bylaw.
Okay.
Because it changes the landscape of playoffs. And it may be, interesting to some people to know about this specific bylaw. So
yeah,
I'm going to go to it. I'm scrolling through the bylaw list right now. I think it's like bylaw 19 or something. Bylaw proposal 19. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to get into the classifications.
hey, this is going to be a bylaw episode.
Bro, no, you know what I'm noticing? It probably is going to be a bylaw
and
episode.
That's fine. That's fine, bro. Like, I'm okay with that.
All right, so before I even get to the playoff expansion one, right? If we look at bylaw proposal 14 and 15, I believe, and 16, no, so bylaw 14 and 15 are all based on classifications, right? So bylaw 14, and then even the thing I love about these proposals is letting you know which bylaw it's modifying, so you can even go look at the current bylaw that's currently in place.
Yep.
So you can see that what bylaw is proposed, whether it's a brand new bylaw or whether it's a modification to a current bylaw, and it states which bylaw the proposed bylaw is trying to modify. So then you can go back and look at the actual bylaw that's in place to understand what's currently in place and what are they trying to change it to, right? So if we're looking at proposal 14, it's based on classification and it's trying to modify bylaw 3.170, right? And the summary of the proposed changes is very simple. Currently, the multiplier for non-boundary schools sits at 1.65, and they're asking for the modification to be to 2.5. So they want to change the bylaw 3.170 from the proposed the proposed multiplier is 2.5, and they want to raise it from 1.65. Okay. The rationale, you can even read the rationale of the submitter, and it was submitted. It was submitted by Adam Euchre, who's an official representative of Williamsville High School. And I will also say, you will learn, I believe he's actually on the Legislative Commission. So this was a bylaw that was proposed by a participating member on the Legislative Commission. Think about it like that. The people that vote on the bylaw proposals also submit their own bylaws on their behalf. Isn't that interesting to even think? A person that's a part of the voting board that decides on bylaws also submit their own bylaws to get voted on.
And then I'll do you one better, how we discussed that the people on the voting board are the ADs and the principals. So you can even go to them.
Or official representative of the school, so they can be a part of, they could be like a superintendent, but they're like involved in the something. I can't remember. They're some way involved with the school, like they're a coach or whatever. So
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So you can even look that up, and those people are accessible. Like you can email those people. You can meet them.
That's all on the IHSA website.
Yeah, bro.
The information is all on the IHSA website.
Yeah, so it's even like, bro, it's so many ways to do this. It's just like, man, we just have to educate ourselves and understand the processes and systems, and we can actually have the change that we want. But it's not gonna come from yelling and being mad and talking shit online. Like it literally is a simple like it's simple, bro. But go ahead, finish saying what you were saying.
So the rationale around the bylaw is that I read it, the rationale of the submitter, right? And I'm not going to go into too many of them. I'm just going to go into football because we talk about football a lot. And a lot of discussion has been around the classification because a lot of schools feel like private schools have a super competitive advantage and they're winning all the state championships. That's not everybody. I mean, it's no secret that a lot of schools feel that way, right?
Yeah.
But the submitter's rationale was that in recent years, the Illinois High School Association has experienced a noticeable shift in a competitive balance across multiple sports and activities. While several proposals have been introduced to address this issue, none have advanced to a membership vote. This proposal builds upon the feedback from prior submissions, so this is letting you know that this is not their first time trying to submit a classification change, okay? So this is a proposal that they tried to submit before, but through feedback and it obviously not being able to be passed, they brought it back. They refined their proposal and they brought it back again to try for another time for it to get voted on. So that's why I'm saying, like, even if you propose a bylaw and doesn't get like passed, it doesn't mean that it's killed right then and there. You still have the opportunity to get it right back around again, to keep working at it to get passed. Anywho, I digress. This proposal builds upon the feedback from prior submissions and provides a transparent, data-driven approach to reestablish fairness within the current multi-class system. All right. This may not sound like it's for football because it doesn't directly say it's for football. So I should be fair and say this is not directly for football, because I think he even brings out data supporting proposals around other sports outside of football. So my apologies. It's not strictly around football, but
come on now. Come on, bro.
It's not here. And I just want to say this. It's not strictly around football because of the data points he pulled up, right?
Okay.
And I'm not going to go into all the data points. State your opinion, FA, because I'm not going to get too much into my opinion on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, just from the sound of it, it's something that we've been hearing a lot, over the past couple years. And it's something that we established that, okay, I think it's a run that the Catholic schools are going on. But I believe 2 episodes back, we kind of went back into the state championships, history of the IHSA playoff, and kind of talked about, where public schools went on runs as well, but I honestly think it's maybe a clever way of doing the whole Catholic schools need their own playoff, right? Because if you increase the multiplier by that much, a school like, let's say, Immaculate Conception, Montini, those type of schools that are lower in classes, will they get bumped up to now going from 3, 4, 5A potentially
Absolutely.
to 7A, 8A, 6A, 7A, 8A? All right, so now how many Catholic schools will be in 7 and 8A? It'll probably be all of them for the most part. So then it's like, okay, what about the schools who are playing in 7 and 8A, right? But that aren't on the level of Catholic schools. It's still the same thing. You're just moving the good teams around, but teams are still going to suffer from it. The teams in 7 and 8A that have to play now all of these Catholic schools in the playoffs, they're going to suffer from an unfair advantage. It doesn't matter where you move them to. The Catholic schools are the Catholic schools. So if you just want to say Catholic schools need their own playoff, then just say that. But I feel that that's a clever way of just getting them all in the same bracket, in the same class, where everybody else could just play it out from 6A all the way down. That's kind of how I look at it.
The main multiplier goes to the private schools, right? I shouldn't say just the private schools, it's the non-boundary schools.
Yeah.
But we all know most of the non-boundary schools are private schools, right? So,
right.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not going to say too much of my opinion on it.
Right.
But, clearly people feel a way about how certain schools compete.
Yeah.
And based on their enrollment and how they can recruit. All right. So, I
It's
mean,
difficult. It's difficult only because the simple fact of, like you said, is it has they have data points supporting that it's issues in other sports as well, right? But the thing is, it doesn't apply to everything though, because the Catholic schools don't just completely dominate in every sport. But this would affect every sport though, So
it
it's
would.
just like, I mean, it's just kind of hard to do. And I like I said, I think somebody will suffer because the Catholic schools are good, and I think there are teams in 7 and 8A who very well can't compete, just like teams in 4A, 5A, 3A can't compete either. So you just moving them around. But some teams are gonna feel like, man, this is not fair. And I think it's even more unfair if you add all of them to the same class. So imagine like, let's just hypothetically say that Mount Carmel, Loyola, Fenwick, Montini, Marist, all of these schools are now all in 8A. Is that fair to the other
So
schools
then
that
only Mount
to
Carmel and Loyola win state
yeah,
championships.
yeah. I mean, you think it's fair that because you still got like the Lockports, the Sandbergs, all these different schools. So it's like you
But it
can't.
will also, you got to think about it like this too. It will shake up the classification system so much because think about it like this, right? We were talking about certain teams being in a certain class before the playoff parents show, and then we realized like, oh, Bradley Bourbonnais was bumped down to 6A when we
Yeah.
thought they was going to be in 7A because 3 teams petitioned to be in 7A,
Hmm.
or Mount Carmel was going to be in 8A for the success factor. Glenboro West gets bumped down because Mount Carmel was going to be in 8A.
Right.
So imagine if a Montini Catholic, Immaculate Conception, all of these private schools that you mentioned, all are bumped up to a certain class. That changes things because now other things have to be bumped down. Like other teams are going to have to be bumped down because of enrollment. It'll just cause like it'll probably
Like I said, it sounds like a clever way to it sounds like a clever way to say Catholic schools get y'all on playoff. If all of the good Catholic teams are gonna be in one class, because you're bumping it up a lot. So most of those teams are gonna be 7, 8A. Like that's just what's gonna happen. So if you got majority of them in the same class, I mean, and like you said, teams are gonna get bumped down. So if you have a predominantly, it seems like, okay, now 8 and 7A is probably gonna be predominantly the Catholic schools.
Well, so here's the thing. These are only proposed. So
Yeah, right. I'm just
whether
hypothetically
this getting
speaking.
passed or not is TBD.
Yeah,
But these are only the proposals. I
yeah,
don't want to get too caught up in this because this is another classification proposal, and pretty much this is a little different than the last one. So the last one was just let's change it from 1.65, the multiplier from 1.65 to 2.5.
mhm.
And this was proposing a tier proposal. This is proposal 15, and it's submitted by Tom Ryerson, principal of Geneseo. I think I pronounced that right. Um, and pretty much he proposes a tier system. Tier 1 would be based on population density in the 30-mile radius, right? So establishes a tier multiplier for non-boundary schools based on the population within a 30-mile radius of the school's address. So tier 1 would be a 1.5 multiplier for a population under 200,000. Tier 2 would be 1.75 multiplier for a population between 200,000 and 999,000, which is pretty much a million, 999,999. And then tier 3 would be a 2.0 multiplier for a population of 1 million or more,
And it said within the 30-mile radius of the school.
which within the 30-mile radius of the address of the school.
It's the same thing because where all the good schools at? Where all the good Catholic schools at? you
Hey,
know,
man, like I said,
I
I
mean, it's just no.
I
I love it. I love how clever they're getting to try to kind of separate it. But I mean, I mean, it just is what it is, man. Life is not fair. Like, and I think they're
but I'm gonna just go back to my point of what I've been saying in the first place. At least propose something if you feel like
yeah.
something to be changed.
Yep, for sure, for sure,
Propose
for
something
sure.
if you feel
Yeah,
like something to be changed.
yeah,
Bring your ideas to the table so we can get that conversation started.
yeah. No, definitely.
To the
I
real
agree.
table. To this is a real, like, this is what real work is right here. Like you said, complaining about it online is not going to get anything done because essentially it's going to just turn into a media frenzy, and then what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I commend these submitters for submitting this because they're actually at least putting some thought into what they feel like should change.
Yeah.
Whether we agree with it or not, they're at least trying to get the work. They care about the bylaws that are currently in place and understanding that some of these changes need to happen to make stuff equitable. So I encourage everybody to do it.
Yeah, it's a
So
great thing.
whether
I
you
love
agree
it.
with it or not, that's what voting is. That's what the
Yeah,
process is.
this is
Everybody's not going to
healthy.
agree with your ideas.
Yep, and this is
Everybody's not going to
healthy
agree with your
though.
ideas, but at least put your ideas on the forefront to get people to talk about it and get that conversation going. And once you get the conversation going, you may understand like, damn, I ain't even think of that.
Yeah.
Let me add that language in there.
Yep.
Or let me take that out. You know what? You're right about that. But it gets the conversation going and it flushes it out to make a more refined bylaw. That's why I say everybody needs to get involved in this process because you can help with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can see one of these bylaws and say, damn, this bylaw right here would be a lot better if it had this language in here. Or damn, this bylaw right here would be a lot better if this was taken out. You can provide those opinions. And I'm obviously consistently talking about the participating member schools. But still, like this is a real process. I want to go down to the next one because this is a more important one that I think which bylaw is it that is expansion to the playoffs? Okay, so this one strictly says boys football. Okay. I'm trying to think if this is the one. Okay, here we go. Yep, this is the one. So this is the expansion of the playoff bracket. So this is bylaw proposal 19, boys football. They are asking to modify bylaws 5.071, 5.072, and 5.073, which I think are bylaws that are in place around playoff football. The submitters are from and this is very interesting because a lot of the previous bylaws that I mentioned were one submitter. And it doesn't necessarily mean that one school, fleshed out the bylaw together. Only one school put their name on the bylaw proposal, right? But this bylaw proposal specifically has a decent amount of submitters. I'm seeing Monticello on behalf of the Southland Athletic Conference. So I'm assuming that that's a conference effort. As far as fleshing out the bylaw.
Yeah.
We have DuPage Valley Conference, Big 12 Conference. So more of the story I'm getting at is that there are multiple schools, and this bylaw is clearly written by multiple schools, like a decent amount of participating members. And that's why I say when you propose a new bylaw, you get with your AD and your principal, and then your AD and principal get together and say, "Are we trying to propose this?" Get with other schools. And start with your conference to see if they may think, I don't know, this ain't, it may sound better if you do this. Start getting your ideas together, man. Like start getting your ideas to understand how can y'all make real change. I have a thing where, sometimes I have a good idea and I come to you about it and you like, I like it, but let's do it this way. You know what I mean? Like teamwork. So it's like, it's the same thing in regards to this. Like you have an idea of what needs to be changed, understand what you're trying to change, meaning reading the bylaw first, and then create your thoughts on paper and, flush it out and then start asking around of what you think can make this, change better. Anywho, going to the summary of proposed changes of bylaw proposal 19, that's a modification to 5.071, 5.072, and 5.073. The summary of the proposed changes, it would say the same start date for football practice will be Monday of week 6, okay, which is, they do the calendar based on the school year's calendar. So week 6 is like the 6th week of the new IHSA school year. And then the same end date for the football season will still be Saturday of week 21, which would be the same weekend the state championship still falls on. However, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday of week 0, which is usually the week that most teams play a week 0 game. Usually it's like a scrimmage. For varsity level games, previously known as the scrimmage week, becomes IHSA week 1. So they're proposing to change week 0 to week 1, which is the Thursday of week 7. And they're saying lower level football may begin on Saturday, allowing 2 additional practices for younger players, whatever. We all know these changes are really made for varsity level sports. I shouldn't say that, but You know, I really shouldn't say that. But I I
We
take
can
back
just
what I
cut
said.
it. Yeah, we just cut it out.
We just cut that out. School maintains 9-week regular season, so they're not asking for changes. They're not asking for more games. They're still asking for a 9-week season, just for the season to start early. And then the parents are announced on week 15, which is I would assume after the ninth game of the season. Um, and then IHSA football playoffs will begin 1 week earlier, Friday or Saturday of week 16, which is the week after. So week 9 currently would be week 1 of the playoffs. So week 9 this year, imagine if it was in place this year, week 9 would have been week 1. Okay. And then they're saying currently 256 schools make the playoffs. They're asking for an additional 128 schools will make the playoffs, bringing the total number of teams to make the playoffs to 384. All classes would have 48 teams instead of the current 32 team system. Classes 1A through 6A would be divided into North and South brackets, seeded 1 through 24. The top 8 teams in each of 1A to 6A North and South bracket will receive a round 1 bye. Class 7A and 8A will be seeded 1 through 48. The top 16 teams in 7A and 8A will receive a round 1 bye. And then they even have a link to the proposed bracket and how the bracket would show up. This was clearly fleshed out, bro, because the fact that they did all of this and all of the submitters, you would even see how the new brackets would be outlined.
Yep.
I would show my screen, but I don't know what will happen to Riverside if I do that. Sometimes Riverside could be tricky.
Right.
But more of the story is they got together and ironed out this bylaw of what they want to change. And whether it's a good bylaw or not, I'm not going to give my opinion on that. All I will say is that it's very well thought out if you look at it.
Yeah.
Like me looking at it, it looks like it's very well thought out of what they wanted to change. And will it get passed or not? I'm not 100% sure because nobody knows yet at this point. But I mean, it's very well ironed out. You know what I mean? Like they even have so many details. They got a decent list of the pros, a decent rationale of the cons. Yeah, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I know you
This-
can't. I know you can't give your opinion, but I'm gonna give mine. And honestly,
I choose not to give my opinion.
yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know. You for rightfully so. Like there's a
Okay.
good reason for that. But yeah, just for me, honestly, I competitively, I don't like it. Of course, everybody could have guessed that one. Just from the sense of like now, I believe 3 and 6 teams are going to be eligible for the playoffs, which is like very watered down to me, a very low standard. I feel like at the very least you could be over 500 if you want to make a playoff run. But that's me competitively speaking. But now if you think about like just like the morale, I think that is good for teams who maybe don't have the resources to make it, or many factors contributing to them not being as good. And at least you get to experience a playoff game. Cause like you said earlier, it's like most of these guys are done playing football. Like this is the last time they're gonna play, and some of them never ever even got to experience what a playoff felt like. Like let them go travel and go play somewhere. A 3 and 6 team go play somewhere and experience what a playoff atmosphere feels like. So it's like kind of conflicting with me, honestly, between the competitive aspect and the morale aspect. But I mean, overall, as far as the proposal, I think is great, and what they're trying to do is great. To be completely honest, like I think it's ironed out very well, but that's interesting to me. But I like the first round bye, the idea of the first round bye. I think that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they do it, cool. But if not, like I said, I'm not so big on it. But the only thing I'm thinking about is the athletes. Like I think it's great for the athletes who will have the opportunity to experience the playoffs. So
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not gonna give my opinion, but the thing that I will commend them for is that they clearly flushed it out. They got with a group of people. It wasn't just one school. Like I said, it wasn't just one school that submitted this. It was multiple schools. It was like whole conferences that was involved on this.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So this is clearly well thought out. You know what I mean? And not to say that other ones weren't. It's just more so my opinion of I think, if you're coming with a bylaw proposal, it should be talked about amongst other participating members before
yeah,
you actually submit it.
yeah.
I think that will help it get ironed out and flushed out. That helps benefit the association as a whole. Because at the end of the day, submitting these bylaw changes is to specifically benefit the association.
Yeah.
It's not meant to benefit one school, you know. Something may happen to you that may spark your interest, and you may say, all right, this happened to us. I think I don't want this to happen to nobody else. We need to make a change. But even in doing that, I would still say get with other schools.
Yeah.
Like, don't just think about it from your lens. Think about how this would affect other schools from their lens, you know? And Illinois is a big state, man. You know, I learned, especially working at IHSA, Southern Illinois problems aren't necessarily Northern Illinois problems. Now there are certain problems that are, you know, issues that are problems from the Northern Illinois and Southern Illinois part, but you learn that when you get into different districts and stuff, certain issues are different, you know?
Right.
Like certain issues affect certain areas differently. Like I think we was even having a conversation with a former I won't get into that conversation. But I won't say who it was, but pretty much the conversation was like a certain public school in this area is not the same as a certain public school in this area.
Yeah.
So just keep it simple terms like that. So the problems that a certain school could be facing in this particular, you know, region of the map may not be the same issue a certain public school is facing on this region of the map. And we can all understand why.
Right.
If you're living in certain areas of the state. But yeah, these are the bylaws proposals. It's 20. Obviously, we didn't read all 23, but we did read some around the football. Oh, there was one around. I think it's important to talk about this one.
What?
It was about organizing players for football before the start of the football season for a combine.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches one time before the start of the football season. I'm trying to find it because this was an interesting one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to it another time. I don't see it here for some reason, so maybe it's not public. I don't know. But yeah, more of the story. This is a time of the year where bylaws are being voted on by the Legislative Commission. As I mentioned, the first Legislative Commission was today. And then the town hall meetings will follow thereafter to discuss all 23 proposed bylaws. Then the Legislative Commission will meet again November 24th. And then they will vote on the 23 proposed bylaws. It will go to an all-school ballot. And then the all-school online voting will be between December 1st and December 15th. So that's 2 whole weeks that the ballots will be open for to vote on them. So even if you don't go to any of the town halls or whatever, I would say at least vote on this stuff. Participating member schools, I should say. Because I don't want to make it seem like the parents can vote on this because they can't.
Right.
Unless they're involved with the school some way, somehow, like they're a coach or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, damn.
A lot of information, bro. But that's great. Like I said,
yeah, I don't know if most people gonna watch this episode.
I mean, but that's true though. Hey, that's
no, I ain't gonna say that, but you know, when you get too educational, some people just get turned off.
But it's
bro.
necessary though, so fuck it. Like, you know, it's necessary and it needed to be done. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, what good is
bro.
having the knowledge if we're not gonna share it? So, like I said, I want to continue this kind of this structure of like following up with certain bylaws and proposals and, you know, just putting that information out there for people to, you know, come
Definitely
and
the
be
football ones because we're
digestible.
covering football. So
Yeah, but I mean, but basketball is coming up too, and then I'll be speaking a little bit about what happened with Simeon and Coach Flowers and that whole situation. So once basketball rolls around, I think this definitely
it'll
is
tie into that.
yeah, it ties in definitely with the bylaws and everything that happened with that situation. So yeah, I think the bylaws are always going to be relevant, you know, through all the sports. It's always going to be relevant because we're super passionate about football, right? But there's somebody out there that's super passionate about tennis, super passionate about gymnastics, super passionate about golf, and they may have their own issues that they're dealing with. We just don't know because we don't follow like that. Well, at least I don't follow like that, so I don't see it. But I'm sure everybody in every sport has something that they want changed or fixed. So this just doesn't apply to football fans or basketball fans. It applies applies to every sport. If you want something changed or you have an issue with something, watch this video and kind of get a basic understanding of the processes and systems that are in place and how bylaws are changed and just kind of added upon. Like, so I mean, yeah, it's a simple thing to do, is to educate yourself and learn the bylaws and figure out what needs to be changed, what's outdated, what you can propose. And if you're a parent like us, I'm sure this conversation, somebody out there is going to hear it that is a coach, that is a principal, that is an AD, and we may be either right or wrong in what we saying, not necessarily with the bylaws, but just the ideas that we come up with, or just, just the different proposals. It may spark an idea for somebody else that they're building off of our ideas and off of our conversation. So I think it's super healthy to at least have these conversations, whether the kids, the parents, the coaches, whoever don't really want to hear it. It's somebody out there who give a fuck what we talking about and is going to apply the information that we give. And the more people that do that, then we'll see more changes. But if people just want to be ignorant and just want to talk shit and complain and don't want to do the necessary work to change it, then we'll never see any change. That's just how the shit goes. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is, bro.
I'm excited about this process because, like I said, I mean, I just started at the IHSA. I mean, I'm about to be 3 months in now. Wow. What's today's date? Yeah, I'm gonna be 3 months tomorrow.
Yeah.
3 months in tomorrow. But yeah, I'm excited about the process because for the first time I get to see how it all works.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wasn't super educated. I wasn't educated on this at all before I started at the IHSA, with the bylaws at least.
Yeah.
But man, boy, am I a lot more educated than I was when I first started. So, but I'm sure the same can happen for a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep saying that people aren't educated on the bylaws, because that I don't want to, discredit the people that are. But like I said, 800 schools is a lot of.
If it don't apply, let it fly.
That's what I'm saying. 800 participating member schools. I guarantee you, there's a big percentage that's needs to be educated a little bit more.
Yeah.
Especially in certain areas where turnover for ADs and principals and stuff is very high.
And that's another conversation.
I'm sure there's, those are probably the people that we're speaking to the most.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get too specific. Obviously, we can hint at who we're talking about, but I do know that in certain areas of the association, in the state of Illinois, turnover for, teachers, principals, ADs, coaches is very high. So when the next person comes in, they're not thinking too much about educating themselves on the bylaw. They're thinking about, man, I need to get this kid to practice so he can stay out the streets.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, they're also have multiple roles. Some of these people aren't just ADs; they're ADs, coaches. So that's what makes it difficult as well. Is like they don't have one primary focus; like they're doing a bunch of things. So it's kind of hard to be super focused and educated on one thing because you're doing so many. So it's a lot. It's a lot,
bro. It's so many layers to it. That's the. Oh my gosh!
But that's what I'm saying.
That's so many layers to it, bro.
Yeah, but that's why it's important for us to do this, even though it may not be as entertaining, it may not be what people are looking for. It's definitely necessary because along with this platform, I feel like it's a responsibility that we have to be able to take the knowledge that we have and the education we have and share it with people, to anybody who's going to listen. If one person, listens to what we say and kind of put forth, the effort and go out there and educate himself or herself, then that's a win. But I feel like at some point it has to be past entertainment, and we do have this obligation to our community to share the information that we're getting. So I mean, it is what it is. Somebody got to do it. Somebody has to do it, or somebody should do it. I would say nobody has to do it, but somebody should do it. And why not us?
Yeah. I know we talk a lot of stuff, but sometimes we do be kicking a lot of knowledge too.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into any of next week's games?
Man, I mean, briefly
for some clips.
I mean, yeah.
All right, let's talk about a few matchups because there are a couple matchups that I was eyeing.
Yeah.
For next week, I'm gonna pull up the IHSA bracket.